Use the multiplication facts. 15 times 15 equals 225, and 2 times 15 equals 30 to help you mentally calculate 17 times 15. And then once we do that, explain how your calculation method is related to the array below, which consists of 17 rows and 15 dots in each row. Also, write equations showing how your mental strategy for calculating 17 times 15 involves the distributive property. So if we're trying to do 17 times 15, we would maybe like a mental math strategy, a strategy that we could do in our head or with very little actual written down work. And so let's suppose that we already know that 15 times 15 equals 225 and 2 times 15 equals 30, right? So 2 times 15 equals 30 is not a hard one, right? Most people probably know that. 15 times 15, so a lot of people have their perfect squares memorized. So if you do, that can make mental math really nice. So if you've ever had a teacher that told you to memorize those, they were wanting you to have some more mental math tools in your toolbox. So things like 12 times 12 is 144, and 13 times 13 is 169, and so all of those perfect squares, right? So 20 times 20 is 400. So 15 times 15 is 225. So how could I use that to do this a little bit more simply? Well, if I'm trying to do 17 times 15, right? What I could do is I could say, well, 17, I could split that up, right? I can split up 17 into 15 plus 2, right? And so why would that be a little bit easier? Well, I could essentially use the distributive property, right? So I could multiply 15 times 15 and then also 2 times 15 and find those separately, right? And so that's the idea is I'm writing this down, but you could do this very easily in your head with any numbers that you're multiplying like this. So I could take a number that I'm trying to multiply by 15 and split it up into two easier numbers. So like, in this case, they're saying to split 17 up into 15 and 2. I could have split that up into 10 and 7, right? So this is just what they happen to tell me to do, to use 15 and 2. But you could use anything that's easy, right? So like if I had used 10 and 7, it's the same idea. I could take 10 times 15 and 7 times 15 and then add them, right? And if that's easier to do in my head, then it's worth doing that step, right? So this is the idea, right? This is where the distributive property is coming in. And then I want to also relate that to the picture, right? So explain how that calculation method is related to the array below, which consists of 17 rows and 15 dots in each row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up into some different colors. So I started with 17 times 15, and I'm just going to put this where I have some more room since they want some equations here. So we said 17 is really 15 plus 2. And so now we're going to use the distributive property. So let me go ahead and distribute my 15 times 15, and 15 times 2. So I'm trying to find 17 times 15 is what I'm starting with. But I know that that's a little hard, right? So this array represents that though, right? I've got 17 rows and I've got 15 dots in each row. So I've got a 17 by 15 array. And so what we're suggesting with this mental math strategy that uses the distributive property is let's split up the 17 into 15 plus 2. So that's essentially splitting this array into two separate arrays. I'm going to take the 17 dots that are going along the left side, or the 17 rows, and I'm going to split that up into 15 of them and 2 of them. And so one way you could do this, especially if you don't have different colors, is just subdivide these, right? So just draw some boxes around these to show how we're going to make this one array into two different arrays. And then, of course, the other way is you could color code, and I'm going to do it that way. So I'm going to take this larger array here and I'm going to choose green for that one. And just shade that all green. So my 15 by 15 array is my green array. 15 rows and 15 dots in each row. And then I'll choose orange for the other part there. That part's going to be my 15 by 2 array. So I've got, I guess technically I'll write that as 2 times 15 because it's 2 times 15 since it's 2 rows and 15 dots in each row. So then this is a little bit easier, especially if we have those multiplication facts, right? So this is easier to do in my head if I wanted to, all right? So 15 by 15 is 225 since I have some perfect squares memorized. 2 times 15 is 30, and then I just add those. So I'm showing work here, but this is definitely something that if I had those multiplication facts memorized, I could just do this in my head, and this would give me 255, in this case, dots.